Hello again, and welcome to breakout session number 3 on track 1. As you may have noticed, our products look and behave very differently than the things that have come before. This is no accident. Much like Apple, we care deeply about user experience, delivering products that people can actually use to help them with their work. Here today to talk about how we do design at Palantir are Michael Lopp and Dan Cervelli. Michael Lopp is an interesting character. Born and bred in the Santa Cruz Mountains, he's one of Silicon Valley's native sons. His career has included stints at Netscape and Apple, and as an engineer and later as a senior manager. He has made a name for himself as an author, now twice published with his tomes Managing Humans, Biting in Humorous Tales of a Software Engineering Manager, and Being Geek, the Software Developer's Career Handbook, both collections of writings from his internet-famous blog, randsandrepose.com. Coming to Palantir from Apple, Michael has brought a wealth of knowledge and passion about designing innovative products that delight and help users. To that end, I've seen few people get quite as excited as Michael does about topography. Dan Cervelli is a senior software engineer on the Palantir government team. He's a prolific coder who brings an infectious drive and passion around creating great user interface to our engineering team. Dan has been responsible for large parts of the Palantir Maps application, the Object Explorer interface, and is the driving force behind the new Home application that we've seen a few times today. It turns out that Dan also has the best job in America, as featured last year on CNN's Money blog. There he was quoted as saying, "I put together apps people actually use, so for me, the greatest joy comes from seeing people use the product in a way that makes their life better or makes it easier for them to do their job." Please join me in welcoming Michael Lopp and Dan Cervelli to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Now for something a little bit different. Okay. Water? No water? Okay, here we go. So in the corner of one of the whiteboards on one of the director's offices back in Palo Alto, it says WWSJD, question mark. And it's said this the entire time that I've worked at Palantir, which is about a year and a half now. And it's near and dear to my heart what it actually stands for. This stands for, what would Steve Jobs do? Which is more poignant this week than it was when I started this presentation. Because unfortunately, thank you. Unfortunately, Steve Jobs passed away last week. It warms my heart working at Palantir, walking into this director's office and looking up and thinking that part of his process of making big, hard decisions, or even little, small decisions, is looking up and thinking, what would Steve do? It's near and dear to my heart because there's going to be a lot of Apple in this presentation. I apologize. Actually, it's kind of awesome. But it's near and dear to my heart because I've been at Apple. I was at Apple for about 8.5 years. I was the running part of the Mac OS X team for 5 years, and then I was running engineering for the online store. I think it would be very hard for anyone to convince me that Apple isn't a wild success over the past decade. A wild success. They are the most valuable company on the planet Earth right now. And when you think about why that is, I hope it's not just because of Steve Jobs, because that would be a problem. It's because there's an amazing engineering team. It's because they work really hard, just like a lot of the valleys and companies in the Silicon Valley. And they obviously have great technology. But the thing that ties it all together, the thing that makes Apple great, is design. This is a very hard word to define. What does design mean? I could ask all of you, and you would raise your hands, and I'm pretty sure I would get a lot of different answers. Even within the design community, there's no really standard definition about what design actually means. People nod their head and say, yes, we need to have a design-centered culture, and they usually don't know what they're talking about. Let's talk a little bit about this and get a feel for how we're applying some of these ideas inside of Palantir. The thing about design is when you start looking at the world, thinking about how things are built, which is maybe one of the definitions, the decisions, how you build a thing, you start to see interesting examples of, let's say, poor design. Here's the deal with this 3-wheeled car. You look at this and you kind of go, what were they thinking there, right? But here's the thing I promise you. There is somebody on the planet Earth who thinks this is a great idea. They go, well, we're saving a tire, right? And it corners amazingly well. Design failing is really easy to see. And when you start to look at things and you start to say, well, what are the decisions that actually led to us to make this product, you start to see interesting things. Here's another one. When you go to a foreign country, they say, eat the bananas because they're already wrapped inside of something, right? So someone said, hey, it's a great idea. What we're going to do here is we're going to wrap the thing that's already wrapped into something else. What were they thinking here, right? What was the design thinking? Here's a little more close to home for me. For those of you who don't know, BART is our poor excuse for a subway back in the Bay Area. And here's how you buy a ticket. Totally clear, isn't it? You just follow the numbers that go left to right in the opposite order. There's this color thing going on. It's confusing. And it's really what should be a very simple process. It should be as easy to do as it is to describe. I am going to go buy a ticket. Design is everywhere around you. You're suffering through it. You're loving it all the time. And the thing is, all of these screenshots that I'm giving you here, the thing about them is there's usually some engineer. I'm an engineer, remember. There's some engineer behind the scenes who's got a lot of power to influence what is being built. They know the electronics, they know the software, they know the materials. And the thing about engineers that's really interesting to me is that engineers left to their own devices can do some awesome things. This is a screenshot. When I did the demo, I panicked everyone in the back. They're like, oh my God, what happened? Anyway, you've all seen this screen. You've all looked at this and gone, what the hell happened here, right? Now, I'm an engineer, and I look at this, and I'm like, oh, something happened. I'll restart, everything's fine. This thing has been dubbed, not by Microsoft, but by everybody else who's looking at it, the blue screen of, that's right, death. Do you know why it's called death? Read the first 3 lines. A fatal exception occurred. When my mom sees this screen, she thinks someone has died, right? She looks at this and she goes, oh my God, my computer is horrifically damaged forever, right? But the thing is, there was an engineer or engineers who were looking at this and saying, this is going to be a useful thing. This is something which is going to inform them and illuminate and tell them, and it's not at all. This is a bad design decision. And just to show you that I'm an equal opportunity basher, here it is on Mac OS X. You get very helpful advice about how to restart your computer in 4 different languages. But again, it's something which is, this is a design decision that I think is bad. I would like to show you what I think is a well-designed failure. And yes, this is an Apple ad, as you're finding out. This is an iPad. You're looking at the springboard. Now you're looking at the springboard. And the springboard is just for those of you who don't, how many people have iPads here? How many people have Macs? Wait, how many people have Macs at work? Okay, and Macs at home? Interesting. All right, some work to do there. All right, so this is an iPad, and this is the springboard, and this is me not jostling it around a lot. And what I'm going to show you is an application loading up, which is another Apple ad. I'm sorry, I really swear to God, I work for Pallantier. It's a lovely place. This is Safari, and I'm going to shut Safari down. And Safari's gone, right? I just shut the application down. All right, now, what I'm going to show you now is an application crashing. This is the blue screen of death on the iPad. Once I fire up Safari, you ready? I actually can't do it because it looks exactly the same as the application just shutting down. There's absolutely, now, the engineer in me, and I was talking with Dan about this last night, the engineer in us goes like, wait. We were dishonest with the user. Something bad happened there, right? Application, we should tell them, they should report the bug, and we can go fix and all this sort of stuff. That is the engineering mindset telling you to do something which is not necessarily great design. Someone, maybe it was Steve, I don't know, said, what we're going to do here when the application fails on the iPad is going to do the right thing for the user. That's all of you guys, right? We're going to choose a model which respects the user. Everything the engineer wants to know about like the crash and what happened there and the sequence is actually sent up to the mothership in the back channel, and they do nefarious things with it. Probably not. But the point is, we met both requests. Someone decided to focus on the user. I would say this is a good example of a well-designed failure. Design, in my world, means making decisions. Sounds like a cliche. We're making decisions. The big, hard ones, which products are we going to do? Which hard problems are we going to go after? The small ones, what's the right word to use here? What's the best typography to use in this dialogue that makes it the most readable, the best reading experience? It means making decisions. How do you actually go make those decisions? Actually, before I get there, so engineers, us, Palantir, left our own devices. If we were going to go and do the path of least resistance solution about, let's say, hypothetically, putting the Palantir on the iPhone, this is what we would do if we weren't actually thinking or making decisions. We'd shove the whole damn thing in and say, look at this is great. Isn't it beautiful? This is not what we did with Palantir Mobile. We said, okay, we have a whole set of features, we have users, what are the right decisions to make for these folks to make something which is going to be useful for this platform, useful for the users. We made hard decisions about what to include and what not to include. Design means being really good at saying no. Because if you don't say no, this is where you get. This is an exaggerate. I'm ripping on Microsoft. I've been doing it for a decade. Anyway, this is Microsoft Word with every single toolbar turned on, which you would never do because that would be kind of crazy. But the thing about this is there's a lot of well-intentioned design going on here, believe it or not. I guarantee you that each of you who's used Word, and I use Word, Word's great, there's something on here that you absolutely could not live without. I absolutely need to be able to embed a Fox Pro database in my Word document. That's essential to my life. And that's what this is. This is every single feature in Word showing to the user. And if we didn't decide to choose to focus on the important things, the things that people really need to do, this is where we'd end up. This is why in Palantir you see a really clean toolbar, right? We're not trying to overload you, right? This is why in all like Mac OS 10, there's only one toolbar. They're not trying to overwhelm the users because what they've done is they've decided to go and make decisions about what the user needs to do. Design involves you. Palantir is not a consumer software company. You guys have really hard problems. Consumer software, you can sit there and you can get the entire problem inside of your head. It needs to be a notification engine. It needs to have these 3 features, and it needs to just be gorgeous, right? The problems that you guys are solving are massive. They're hard. They're often impossible to solve, and we need to work with you to actually go and build a model, to figure out a vision, to figure out a design that's going to make sense, that we can make these decisions for you. Great design isn't about making decisions for the users. It's about making those decisions irrelevant. You should be sitting down at the software and not seeing it. You should be doing it is whatever, you should be sitting down and doing whatever it is that you do. And there's a lot of you out there with a lot of hard problems. So, last Apple screenshot, I swear. There are two users at Apple. There's really kind of the consumer user, which is a person who just needs my wife is a great example of this. Just sits there, just wants to get the photos in. She's in and out, she's done. This is the consumer. The other half of the user is what they call prosumer, which is the higher end. This is Aperture. This is their high-end photography editing program. And these are two very different people. Obviously, the Aperture users are people that want a lot more knobs and dials, a little bit more sophistication. The thing about Palantir that's really both awesome and hard is we need to be able to speak to the entire spectrum of experience, from the folks that want all the knobs and dials to the folks who just want to get in and get out and get the job done. We have to speak to all of them. We can't segment. One product needs to serve all of these folks. What we need to do, and as an introduction into Dan, is we need to understand. Great design means understanding what the user wants. What do you want? All of you, right? Prioritizing, focusing, and expertly describing that via a model, which is what we built, as you'll see in a second. A model gives us a vision. A vision allows us to say, is this more important than that, as opposed to giving you another toolbar full of all of the different options. And the thing that's really want to do, and this is the thing that I think Apple is really good at, is we want to exceed your expectations, right? It's enterprise software, But it doesn't mean that we can't figure out how to surprise and delight you when you're sitting down and using the product. So to give you a little example of this, Dan Cervelli is going to come up and show you how we've walked through and used some of this thinking on one of Palantir's features.